Hello and welcome to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy,
And I'm Claire.
and we're here to talk about some of the disturbing things that go on in the world, past and present. We feel like not knowing doesn't mean the crazy doesn't exist.
So we're going to scar you with the knowing.
Enjoy. So, what do you got for us today, Claire?
Want to play a game?
Um,
Guess which state hogs outnumber people 4-1. And before you guess, of somewhere southern, they also have the highest literacy rate in the country and are home to the National Hobo Convention and also called the Hobo Capital of the World, as they have hosted the convention for 100 years now over a weekend in August every year.
is it really called the Hobo Capital
Yeah.
of the World? That's sad.
Sure is. Apparently, that convention is also kind of like a festival. It's got a parade, entertainment, arts and crafts, food, and everything. Well, you ain't going to guess right anyway.
Is it West Virginia?
No. We're going to Iowa in the 80s.
All right.
Which, by the way, never heard of a hobo convention.
No, I was going to ask, but I figured you was going to yell at me and tell me that's not what this case is about, even though it was enough for you to tell me about it.
I thought it was weird or crazy because they've been doing it it's over a weekend in August every year for the last 100+ years. Not that I live in Iowa to know that one, but I was just like, 100 years?
It seems like a weird thing to celebrate.
But it's also weird that they've got the highest literacy rate in the country. I really figured Alabama would be the home of the hogs, but it's pretty crazy. Anyway, nothing to do with her case. Our case today will involve a young couple in their 20s that were in love and living together in their duplex in Coralville, Iowa in the fall of 1983. We've got Ben Caldwell and Ellen Egan. Now, a little bit about our couple. Ellen was going to school at the University of Iowa, where she was majoring in English and working part-time at the Ambassador Inn and Supper Club. Now, Ellen's parents lived in Des Moines, and she would make trips home regularly to visit them.
Isn't it Des Moines?
Andrea, I don't fucking live in Iowa. If you knew what I was talking about, get on with it. It ain't important. I'm just telling you her parents live in the same state she does, so she'll go home regularly. Ben's parents hail from West Virginia, so he doesn't see his parents frequently because it's not real close.
All right.
Anyhow, friends would say that they were a classic couple who had met through a mutual friend at school. They would be together for over a year before deciding they were going to get married in March 1984. Now, Ben, who graduated from the same school, was working as a painter. Ben and Ellen would frequent parties together and develop a habit of cutting it loose and letting the booze flow. Ben happened to be a jealous and possessive kind of feller, which only increased with the amount of booze in his blood. Now, one of the main differences between Ellen and Ben, their drinking habits was that Ellen would get rubbery-legged and sleepy, and Ben would get to the point of being unkind and occasionally physically abusive when he drank.
Oh, so he's a fun drunk.
Right. And the pattern would also develop where after a night that ended on the rough side, to say the least, the couple would reconcile the next day. Personally, I would think that if you're that kind of person when you're drinking, you'd choose to not partake in the devil's juice altogether. But I suppose that's hard to do when you're a youngin' and all your pals are out, and it just seems to be something you do in your 20s, so I guess that would be hard, but I don't get why they just didn't avoid the party scene altogether.
Young and dumb.
Now, we're going to talk specifically about a day in October, the 29th, when Ben and Ellen, they're about 18 months into their relationship, would attend a party where they would get separated from each other. Ben would get pissed and leave the party altogether and head home and go to bed. Now, Ellen decided that she's not going to let that room.
Wait. Can I just say, if I was ever somewhere and my significant other chose to just leave me because we got separated, I would be livid.
Yeah, I would be absolutely pissed. However, I feel like when there's booze factored into it, you don't make your best decisions. But I would also be pissed being Ben, because instead of realizing that her fiancé has left and headed home, she decides, fuck this shit, I'm going to go to another party, where she would become even more intoxicated. She eventually decides it's time to go home, and on her way out, she tumbles down the stairs She's fine and manages to still get into the cab and head home. Now, this is several hours after Ben is already home, and I feel like when he got home, he really couldn't sleep anyway because he is just livid and then just staring at the clock, only getting madder. Naturally, both having alcohol in their bloodstream, it only fuels that argument of where she's been before going to bed. Now, Ben would call 911 at about 5 a.m., saying that he can't get Ellen to wake up. The ambulance would rush out. They would work hard to save Ellen, but she would be pronounced dead at 6:37 a.m. after all the efforts failed to save her. Her cause of death being blunt trauma to her head that caused a brain bleed. Now, it was early that same morning that Ellen's parents would get the phone call that no parent wants. It was the coroner's office, and that their daughter had been declared dead an hour ago. With it being October 30th, they were given a callback number to confirm the information, which they were hoping had been a joke.
That's a terrible joke.
But it wasn't a joke. Daughter Ellen was dead. Yeah, I agree. I was just like, I don't know if that's a thing people do in Iowa. It's just kidding. It's not the coroner's office. But I feel like they were just hoping it was a sick joke. Now, October 30th, 1st, Ben would be arrested for second-degree murder, which is when you're responsible for killing someone, but there's an absence of premeditation. It would carry a max of 50 years in prison. Now, Ben would be allowed to go free on a $25,000 bail that only required 10%, because Ben would admit to having hit her, but he only admitted that after he was arrested. Now, he claims that he didn't kill her, and he certainly didn't hit her to kill her. He would say he thought she had gone to bed and passed out and didn't realize something was wrong until he tried to wake her the next morning. Naturally, after Ellen's death, her family would begin to re-examine all the things in regards to Ben and Ellen's relationship prior. Like that time when she came home with broken ribs but said she had fallen on ice. Or that other trip she made home when she had a busted lip and said that she bit it while she was sleeping.
What?
Or the fact that her daughter had asked her mother to not talk about her past relationships in front of Ben because he was real jealous and possessive, which I didn't think too much of because I think it's more of a respectful thing to not discuss someone's ex in front of their current significant other.
Yeah,
So I did kind of like I wouldn't say that's a trigger. I think it's disgusting when people are like, yeah, let's talk about your ex.
like Armo's done.
Yes, that's exactly where my brain went. Anyway, Ben would eventually go to testify on his behalf, and his version would be that after they split up at the party, he was mad and left and went home. Mind you, there were people that testified that were at the party that said the couple seemed to be arguing before he left angry to go home. So I don't think that it was so much of somehow they got split up. I think they argued over something and separated at the party, and then since she didn't come find him, he skedaddled when she's having a good time. He's just still mad. What they argued over, I don't know.
I don't feel like it matters. It shouldn't have led to any type of abuse or her death.
Yeah. Now, then those several hours passed when Ellen showed up at home and went into the bathroom to get ready for bed when he decided to go confront her about where she's been. Now, Ben, who holds a black belt in karate, would ask her where she'd been, and she didn't answer, so he hit her on the left side of her face several times with an open hand. He said he hit her to humiliate her for leaving him at the party. Then he would grab, since she wasn't answering his questions, he would grab a fistful of Ellen's hair and bang her head on the bathroom door roughly 4 to 5 times. When she attempted to get away from him, he then pushed her against the wall of the bedroom, causing Ellen to sustain bruising on her face, shoulders, and legs. He didn't think he was killing her during the beating and would never have intentionally killed her, but he was drunk. Although what he did was violent, unkind, and shameful, he did not kill Ellen. He stopped hitting her when he noticed there was blood coming from her nose.
Oh, he sure is a nice guy.
I was like, now he would also testify that he had a tendency to become a suspicious and belligerent drunk who would have memory lapses. Now, the first time he hit Ellen in the face was in September because he was mad that some guy at the party had bumped into Ellen. Nothing intimate, but it made him mad at her, and then he was mad also because she was drunk, but then so was he. So he hit her. Now, she didn't speak to him for days after that, and this became kind of a routine of him hitting her, and then she would be quiet. Then they would eventually talk it out and work it out. Now, she would say that she wished he wouldn't do it and that she didn't want to be a battered wife. And hindsight would tell him that alcohol definitely was a problem because they fought when they drank. Now, that first time he hit Ellen in September would be the first time of an estimated 4 to 5 times before she died. 2 days before the fight that left Ellen dead, Ben would get word that Ellen was going out on him. So he hit her. Then she hit him back, and he hit her again. Then she hit him a bunch more times, and he was just glad to get a reaction from her, which I find really fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
Mind you, he was drunk for that slap fest, but Ellen would show him the bruise the next day that he had given her, and he wouldn't really remember much of it, but they would make up anyway and then decide to head to that Halloween party. Now, Ben would be happy at their being on good terms again when they head to that party get together. And Ben would also recall that Ellen would close her eyes before he would hit her and wince on the morning or like that night that she died. He also remembered seeing the blood in her nose and thinking the slapping might have gone too far.
Which is it? Did he black out or does he not? Because that's a lot of information to remember.
I think it's convenient memory, and I think it's
Yeah.
also like he's trying to paint himself in the best light possible. But no matter how you answer some of these questions, you sound like a complete and total asshole. Because guess what? You fucking
You
are.
are.
I think it was a mistake for him to testify because none of this paints him in a good light, in my opinion.
Absolutely not.
Now, Ben would testify that the whole fight lasted maybe 15 to 20 minutes, and he says, I didn't beat on her for 40 minutes. As if it's like, okay, 15 to 20 minutes. Oh, that's not bad. Fucking idiot. And afterwards, Ellen would even come into the bedroom to try and hug him, but he was still mad at her and would shove her away. Now, that was the shove that was so hard that she hit the wall and slid down. So he claimed that he then picked her up and put her on the bed.
Yeah, bullshit.
Next thing he knew, he woke up and the light was on, and Ellen was on her right side at the foot of the bed, unconscious and undressed. When he couldn't wake her, he called the ambulance. Now, when he was asked why he hit Ellen at all, I was mad at her. I was jealous. She had this way of just tuning people out. It was as if screaming wouldn't get the point across good enough.
He's a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to punish her for hurting me, is his reason for hitting Ellen that night, which was his response during cross-examination, to which the prosecutor would ask, and you chose physical means to do this? And Ben would say, yes. So when you were hitting her, you knew what you were doing? I knew what I was doing the way a drunk knew what he was doing.
So he knew what he was doing.
Sometimes Ben's friends would say, ha, guess what you did last night? And then fill Ben in on whatever shenanigans he did. Now, Ben would explain he could handle his motor functions perfectly fine when he was drunk. He just couldn't handle his temper. And I'm thinking, okay, well then fucking stop drinking. You have problems. You can't contain your behavior, so quit it. You're not a friendly drunk. You're mean to everybody. Worst, to the person you claim to care about the most. Now, there would be photographs submitted into evidence of the home that Ellen and Ben shared, where there was a dent in the bedroom door that Ben would explain was where he hit his forearm during an argument with Ellen.
His forearm, my ass.
Because he's naturally very jealous, and the more he would drink, the more irrational he would get, is how he explained it. Ellen, on the other hand, would have a pattern of having her friends take her home because she was incoherent, and a time that she was tucked in to the back seat of a car during a party because she got sleepy.
It sounds like neither one of them should be drinking.
No. Like, it just, I don't get it. If they think they found their special person, what's the point of the parties? Like, that seems like a single person scene, not a we're about to get married in March scene.
Yeah. They just really enjoyed partying, I guess.
Well, I don't know. I think of marriage is for the mature audience and not the wild, and it sounds like they were still sowing oats when I don't know. It was just confusing to me. But 3 pathologists would testify about the autopsy that was performed and that Ellen's cause of death was brain swelling that caused a blood clot to form and contribute to her death. but were as a result of blunt trauma to her skull. They couldn't eliminate that she got the injury that caused her death from the fall down the stairs or from the repeated blows Ben gave her. Even minor thumps could have caused her death. His attorney would advise him to pass on pleading guilty to voluntary manslaughter, which would carry a 10-year max prison sentence, and to roll the dice with the jury, to which I was like, they couldn't have thought that his testifying was like, you got this. She deserved it. She didn't hear anything, so you had to really clinch it with a good slap. But I was like, that seems like wildly bad advice. The jury would deliberate for 8 hours before coming back with a guilty verdict of second-degree murder, and he would be sentenced up to 50 years in prison.
That's not a lot.
No. Now, he would serve 6 years before being released.
What?
Mm-hmm. He would then get married, move out east, and live out his life.
Did he beat the next one?
Not that I know of. Now, since 1991, Iowa requires all men arrested for domestic violence to get treatment. And although 95% of the participants are men, there are a few women in the programs. And fun fact, women and men assault each other at the same rate, but men cause more serious injuries because, they're bigger.
Yeah.
But it isn't exclusive to men battering the women. There's some nasty ladies out there that use forms of violence on their significant others, to which I know I've said it before, but keep your fucking hands to yourself.
Yeah. Wow. I can't believe he was able to. I would be livid if I was her family and he's free, goes and marries, and goes and lives his life some.
Yeah, because they were robbed of
Everything?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like he at least got his shit together, because I would find it even more disturbing if they released him and he went on to,
And he killed another one.
or even just to batter her. Even if he didn't kill another one, just to go on to be an abusive piece of garbage, I think would have been tragic.
Yeah. Now, Ellen's parents, they did, because they were devastated at the way they got the call. Not that I think it'd be devastating information anyway, but since it was like less than a minute long phone call of, hey, your kid's dead, just letting you know, you could call this number to verify it, which is why they were like, what the fuck? They did end up, helping write a handbook for the coroner's office and police departments of how to let family know that their loved one is dead, rather than just being like, just wanted to find out, are you the parent of so and so? Yeah, they're dead. Apparently there's more tactful ways to do that, so that's what they opted to do. They also wanted to raise awareness to all the domestic battery that goes on, which I feel like at least they tried to turn to a positive side of things. But I have to say that if the relationship is starting bad, don't expect things to change. I don't. This is your fiance part. That all that should be you guys being all lovey dovey. Who knows? How much further that would have gone, and to be all like, oh, let's hug it out. I won't. I don't even think he told her he wouldn't do it again. But it's like, what the fuck?
He wasn't delusional. He knew that he'd do it again. That's why. At least he didn't make broken promises.
Well, and when he was just like, oh, he saw blood in her nose, that's why he stopped hitting her. Oh, you hero.
Which, by the way, I also find it a bit disturbing. He only got 50 years. You might not know this, but he knew Taekwondo. Do you know what belt he was? How advanced?
A black belt. I told you he's a black belt in karate. That's why I was just like, here, this black belt in karate is going to confront this little teeny tiny gal in the bathroom. They're both drunk. Got it. However, I thought part of Taekwondo and any of those fighting things are supposed to be, yeah, you learn a skill, but I thought it's supposed to be you don't use it on people like that.
Right.
Not that he was doing karate moves, but I thought the goal is to not be a bully.
It is. So my babies, as you know, are taking Krav Maga, and that was one of the things that their trainer has told them over and over. Your ultimate goal is to get away from the person attacking you, not to become a bully, and not to inflict more harm. Once the person is subdued, you're supposed to stop, not keep going and continue to assault someone who has not assaulted you.
Yeah.
It's real sad. I know this sounds sick, but I'm glad they didn't have kids.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have made this story even more tragic, if that was even possible.
No, I just couldn't believe that when he testified, the comment of, She just didn't really listen very well, so he had to discipline her by physical means. What? She's an adult. You don't discipline her? What the fuck? What is going on in West Virginia?
I thought it was Iowa.
He was from West Virginia.
Oh.
Apparently, the battering your spouse state. But this actually, the time period this took place was also during the O.J. Simpson trial.
Ah.
So apparently, that was during the throes of all the people getting battered to death.
Speaking of which, the battered woman state, did you know in Virginia, one of those weird laws, it's illegal to batter your wife after 8 p.m.?
Well, that's nice. When the sun goes down, there should be quiet. In Alabama, you can't fire a gun 30 minutes after the sun goes down. I thought that was just strictly a hunting law.
I think also in Alabama, it's illegal to drive with a blindfold after dark or something.
Well, you know what, though? It could help some people with their driving.
And did you know in Alabama also, you can drive on a one-way road the wrong direction as long as you have a lantern on the front of your car. Give that one a whirl.
Maybe that's why they have the braille before the stop signs for all those blindfolded drivers.
I think those are called rumble strips, but
I thought those are on the side of the road. These are in the middle. It gives you 4 brr, 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 before the stop sign.
Turns out up in these here parts, we know what a stop sign means.
This doesn't have a high literacy rate in the state of Alabama, so they have to do the signals.
Wow.
Anyways, that was that case. I was just surprised that he got so little of a sentence. And also just I grappled with, I get doing something stupid when you were drunk, but he just kept repeating the drunken stupidness. And where I think her biggest mistake, obviously, would be she stayed with him because when he wasn't drunk, apparently he was a nice feller. I don't feel like he was, but she saw something that she liked, I guess.
So I think it was that with a lot of relationships, once you've been in them for a while, you're comfortable and it's hard to break that because the world is unknown. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to break that. I don't want to say cycle, but cycle.
Yeah.
That would be my thought of she was comfortable and she knew what to expect, even though it was awful. I think that would be my guess, but I have no idea. It's terrible, and I'm glad her family used her tragic death as something to try to put to use for other families in the future. What a piece of garbage. Is he dead? He's not dead, is he?
I didn't want to track down any more about him because just hearing that he got married and moved out east and was living his best life. I hope he took a couple dicks to the face during those 6 years.
Oh, you like that one as your go-to.
Well, that's because I feel like the men folk who do the battering, they deserve some battering in jail.
I agree. Dick to the face is just not usually my go-to. But you do you.
It's because you don't have a penis to use. Not that I do, but I'm just saying the failures seem to get real squirrely, especially the hypermasculine ones. So if they take a dick to the face, it's an extra bad punishment.
All right. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Homicide Hobbies. If we made you laugh, if we made you cry, or if we mindfucked you for the day, then we thank you for listening. Please write a review on whatever you're listening to us on. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers. We're freaking awesome. And join us next week for another episode of Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy.
And I'm Claire.
That's all we've got.